I'm living this battle right now. I am the victim, yet I've been treated like the problem while the criminal, a local doctor, is being shielded by the very system that's supposed to protect us. I've tried to reach the prosecuting attorney, but he won't even accept a letter from me. My voice, as the victim, has been shut out. This is not just about me. This is about a system that protects offenders and rejects victims. Lives are at stake, including the lives of young children. Those are the words written by Charity Beallis in August of 2025. On December 3rd, 2025, 40-year-old Charity and her 6-year-old twins were found dead from gunshot wounds in their Bonanza, Arkansas home. Welcome to, or welcome back to, the Agatha May Detective Agency. I'm Agatha May, and I'm so glad you've joined me in our first episode of the Charity Beallis case. In this episode, I'm not going to go into any depth. I just want to lay out the basic structure and timeline of the case. In subsequent episodes, we'll dig a lot deeper and dive headfirst into all of the rabbit holes, and there are more than a few. Charity married Randall Beallis in May of 2012, but they were divorced by November of that same year. She married Randall again in 2015 and gave birth to their twins in 2019. And while their second marriage lasted almost 10 years, at the time of Charity's death, their marriage was soon to be officially over. The day before the murders, Charity and Randall had gone to court for the final hearing in their pending divorce. Charity had filed for divorce in March of 2025 on the grounds of general indignities, but in her filing she made the statement that Randall was abusive and had been arrested on domestic violence charges, and she was right. On February 17, 2025, Randall Beallis was arrested on felony charges of domestic battering, 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a minor, and 1 count of aggravated assault on a family or household member. These charges stem from him choking Charity. He later pled guilty to a misdemeanor charge of domestic battering and received 1-year probation, had to pay a $1,500 fine, and there was a no-contact order that stated he couldn't have any contact with Charity or any members of her family unless authorized by a valid court order in a domestic relations case, and only for purposes of child visitation or custody exchange as authorized by domestic relations court orders. He also had to complete a domestic violence intervention program. On December 4th, 2025, the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office released the following statement. Quote, on December 3rd, 2025, at around 9:30 a.m., SCSO Dispatch received a call about a welfare check on the occupants of a residence in the 1100 block of First Avenue in Bonanza. Bonanza PD was given the call as the address was in their city limits. SCSO deputies also went on the call with Bonanza PD to assist. Law enforcement could not get any response from the residents and continued to investigate. They were able to enter the home with the assistance of 2 workers at the home. Upon entering the home, they found 3 deceased individuals, a woman and 2 deceased children. It was apparent that the 3 had gunshot wounds. The woman was identified as Charity Beallis, 40. The children's identity is not being released. All 3 have been sent to the Arkansas Crime Lab in Little Rock for autopsy to determine the exact cause of death. SCSO CID is investigating the matter. Search warrants have been written and executed, with more search warrants anticipated during the investigation. Interviews have taken place with more anticipated. Information is still being gathered. The investigation is ongoing. Anyone with information is asked to call FSSO at 479-783-1051. End quote. That same day, attorneys for Randall Beallis filed a motion to have the divorce dismissed. And why would he do this? Because if the divorce was final, he would lose all rights in probate court. Also, if he was still legally married to Charity, he would be able to maintain whatever assets he was set to lose in divorce court. 3 days after the murders, a woman dumpster diving found a large black trash bag at the Reserve at Chaffee Crossing apartment complex in Fort Smith, which is about 10 miles from Charity's home. Inside the trash bag were several documents with Charity's name on it, family photos, a ring, a necklace with the names of Charity's 3 children on it, and some of the children's artwork and homework. Once the woman figured out what she had discovered, she turned it over to the authorities. Interestingly, the address for the Reserve Apartments is 9505 Chad Colley Boulevard in Fort Smith, and that is also the same address that Randall Beallis used when he was arrested for domestic violence. So are we supposed to believe that it's just a coincidence? Some have said that he wouldn't be stupid enough to throw away evidence where he lived, and it must have been planted. But I think we've seen plenty of instances where people can indeed be that stupid. Even doctors. Hubris has a way of interfering with one's common sense. Also, it would have had to have been someone who had access to even get or have those items. So if it wasn't him, who was it? The facility where Randall practices is also on Chad Colley Boulevard. On December 9th, the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office released the following statement, quote, "In reference to the death investigation in Bonanza that has been ongoing since 12/3/2025, SCSO is giving this update on the course and scope of the investigation. The information is as of today, 12/9/2025. Search warrants. 12 search warrants are in process. 6 search warrants have been served. More search warrants could be pending. Interviews. Numerous interviews have taken place with more pending based upon information obtained through tips. Tips. A voluminous number of tips have been received. Each lead is being actively pursued. Agencies involved: Sebastian County Sheriff's Office, the Arkansas State Police, the Bonanza Police, Greenwood Police, Fort Smith Police, Sebastian County Prosecutor's Office, and assisting agencies is the United States Secret Service and Homeland Security Investigations. Evidence. A large amount of evidence has been collected and is either processed or being processed. Crime Lab. Autopsy. Autopsy preliminary results are still pending. Forensics on other evidence are pending as well. Investigators are working hard to get answers, coming in early and staying late. But as in any major investigation, a thorough and proper investigation cannot be hurried or held to an exact timeline. The efforts of this office are to find the truth. We thank the public for all the tips which have been received. There is still no named suspect currently." End quote. Some people have speculated that with the Secret Service and Homeland Security being involved, there must be financial crimes attached to the murders. And while I won't rule that out, I'll also say that the reason they're involved could be as simple as the fact that they have a lot more resources than the local police do. On December 17th, 2025, Charity's son John, who's an adult, was appointed administrator of her estate. He was named as the recipient of Charity's remains, and the twins' remains were released to Randall Beallis since he was their closest living relative. There was a funeral service for Charity on Monday, December 29th. Her body was cremated, and the family is planning a private interment at a later date. It is unknown what arrangements Randall has made for the twins, but it doesn't look as though he's going to allow them to be buried with their mother. And that seems like a complete jerk move on his part. Why would he deny the children to be buried with their mother? Is this a way he can control her beyond the grave? And is that really the kind of man Randall Beallis is? I think some would say yes. Fort Smith medical personnel who have worked with Randall Beallis have commented that he was arrogant, had horrible bedside manner, and looked down on coworkers. Well, it sounds as though they didn't think he viewed them as coworkers, but rather as underlings. Randall and his first wife, Donna, moved to the Fort Smith area in 2008, and she filed for divorce in 2009. He then married Shauna Graham in May of 2010. Shauna was a nurse, so it's possible they met at work. She tragically died on January 5th, 2012, from a gunshot wound to the head, and you might have already guessed that her death was ruled a suicide. Once again, I am convinced that the reason that the number of suicide by firearm deaths for women have increased in recent years is because the deaths are ruled as such an error. and I'm also convinced that some of those errors were willfully made. Shauna's death is another that I believe has the wrong manner of death attached to it. I think she was murdered. And it is just a bit sketchy that the supposed grieving widower was married again in 4 months to the wife who also died from a gunshot wound. I'm not saying it's impossible that two of someone's spouses both ended up dead from gunshot wounds, but I'm saying that the odds of that happening are probably pretty darn tootin' high. There have been rumors out there that Charity had a part in Shauna's death. And there was even an article in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette that, according to a police report, Charity's father, Randy Powell, had gone to police and told them that Charity had told him that she was the one who had shot Shauna, and she was glad the detectives didn't fingerprint a wine glass that she'd been drinking out of. And this was years before Charity died. So what became of that statement? Well, apparently nothing. The manner of Shauna's death remained a suicide and no charges were ever filed. Randy Powell later clarified that Charity had told him that she knew who murdered Shauna, not that she had anything to do with it. In 2014, the Bonanza Police Department destroyed all of the evidence they'd collected in Shauna's murder. An attorney for Randall Beallis issued the following statement after the deaths of Charity and the twins. Quote, "We hope that the sheriff's office finds the truth about what happened to Mrs. Charity Beallis and their children. Mr. Beallis was not responsible for the death of Mrs. Beallis nor his children's deaths." End quote. The manner of death hasn't been released in the Beallis murders, but it has been reported that Charity was shot more than once. No suspects have been named, and all parties discussed are innocent until proven guilty. Thank you so much for being here. I'll be back soon with more true crime. Until then, stay safe and be happy.